You're in the cinema, ready to watch another sequel to a forgotten franchise nobody asked for. You grab popcorn and a drink to drown your sorrows in a sugar rush. You pay, they hand you a cup, and then you see it, glowing red and chrome. The Coca-Cola Freestyle Fountain. Over 100 different flavors at your fingertips. Cherry, vanilla, peach, Sprite. Maybe you'll go wild and mix Fanta with Powerade. Or maybe you'll just stick with a classic. But this machine is so much more than a soda fountain. It's not just serving you a drink, it's tracking everything you do. While you're picking your favorite flavor, it's quietly collecting data. Data that turns customers into test subjects. Data that Coca-Cola profits from tremendously. The Coca-Cola Company is said to have invested over $1 billion in this machine, but they're very likely turning its capabilities into much, much bigger savings and profits. Today, we're diving into how a drink dispenser became a global lab, and what role you play in all of this. The Coca-Cola Company is one of the biggest beverage producers on the planet. The conglomerate controls almost half of the global soda market, making billions in revenue every year. And for a long time, one important way they sold their many drinks was through soda fountains. In the old days, ordering a soft drink was simple. You'd walk up, place your order, and someone would pour your drink. Then, self-service fountains arrived. Now you could fill your own cup. When you were a kid, this fountain was everything. You could mix yourself something truly undrinkable. However, in 2006, Coca-Cola and other beverage makers noticed something worrying. For the first time since 1985, the sales volume of carbonated beverages had declined. People started to focus more on their health and well-being, looking for sugar-free drinks and low-calorie options. But Coke's fountains weren't ready for that. At the time, only about 1% of all Coke fountains in the US even offered Diet Coke. Meanwhile, the choice of sodas at convenience stores had exploded, with rows and rows of hundreds of bottles and cans. But Coke's fountains were stuck with the same limited, kind of boring, standard flavors. So they had to come up with an idea. An idea that would change everything. The Freestyle Fountain's design is interesting. The red, the chrome, the sculpted lines. It kind of looks like it wants to become a Ferrari when it grows up. And that's no coincidence. It was developed with Pininfarina, the legendary Italian design house that shaped the curves of Ferrari itself. You slide your cup under the dispenser, and now the fun part begins. You see dozens of bubbles on the screen, each one a different drink: Vinizo Mix, Coca-Cola, Powerade, Fuse Tea, and Kinley. In total, you can choose from over 100 drinks. Back when you were a kid, this would have been impossible. Restaurants used massive 19-liter syrup canisters for every single drink option. Nowadays, all these flavors fit into just about 30 tiny cartridges. This cartridge design is inspired by medical tech, where precise dosing is critical. Just as insulin pumps deliver exact amounts of medication, the Freestyle system carefully meters syrup and carbonated water for each pour. In theory, every pour is perfectly measured, drop by drop, turning your drink into a precise masterpiece. But Coke from a Freestyle fountain actually tends to taste a little different from the one you buy in the supermarket. In contrast to the old canister systems that pre-mix syrup and sweetener, Freestyle keeps flavor, sweeteners, and carbonated water separate. Now, when you press the button, the flavor, sugar, and carbonated water are combined on demand. This can make your Coke taste slightly different from other preparations. Staring at the bubbly screen, curiosity kicks in. You came in for your usual, but you have to admit, some of these options are tempting. You tap the Powerade bubble and suddenly a whole lineup appears. Powerade Raspberry, Powerade Lemon, Powerade Strawberry. So many choices. You could even mix a drink that doesn't exist, creating your own secret flavor, the one that makes you special. The Freestyle Fountain is fun. It lets you explore, it bewilders, it sparks curiosity, it might even provoke play. And that's exactly the point. Coca-Cola doesn't just want to sell you a beverage, it wants you to feel something. This technique is called experience marketing. Right here, in front of this machine, you're not just choosing a flavor, you're interacting with the brand. You are literally experiencing it. Every tap, every bubble, every choice pulls you deeper into the Coca-Cola universe. And that matters because moments like this make you remember Coke, not just as a drink, but as a feeling. Ideally, they want you to go home and tell your friends about that insane machine that lets you make your own Coke and offers that amazing, weird new flavor they've got to try. And Freestyle isn't the only example of Coke's experience marketing. Think about the Share a Coke campaign, different tactic, same idea. It is all part of Coca-Cola's bigger play, shifting from being just a product brand to an experience brand. Anyway, you ultimately go for Sprite. You didn't even know Sprite Cherry existed. Time to give it a shot. You press the pour button, then you take a sip. Not half bad. You're not the only one who was curious about Sprite Cherry. All over the world, people have made the exact same choice. Obviously, Coca-Cola didn't offer you this new flavor just for fun. The Freestyle ecosystem is basically a giant testing lab. Every pour, every mix, every flavor you try feeds into a massive experiment, a sampling program on a global scale. And with this particular new flavor, the experiment actually worked. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. When Coca-Cola launched the Freestyle in 2009, they packed it with cutting-edge technology. Reliable wireless networks like we have today weren't exactly standard, so Coca-Cola built their own. The network they created links every Freestyle machine directly to Coca-Cola's back-end systems, which are managed through SAP software. Think of it as the company's brain. It keeps track of everything happening across all departments in real time. Every single day, over 50,000 Freestyle machines send data back to this brain. They report everything that's going on inside them, which flavors are being poured, what time of day they're consumed, how much syrup is left. You might not experiment with your drink choices, but many other people do. That is how Coca-Cola discovered that people really like Coke Orange Vanilla, Sprite Cherry, Sprite Strawberry, and Coke Cherry Vanilla. Some of these flavors started as user creations, combinations people kept mixing again and again at the Freestyle machine. Others, like Coke Orange Vanilla, were developed by Coca-Cola. The more people poured them, the stronger the signal became. What started as a tiny bubble on a screen ultimately moved into full production. Sure, you could argue the company might have released these flavors eventually anyway, but with Freestyle, those decisions happened faster and were backed by better data. But there's more. Before Freestyle, staff had to manually check those giant syrup canisters. They probably used inventory sheets, did a bit of guesswork, and called or emailed Coca-Cola to reorder. Freestyle completely transformed fountain logistics. Every night, the system collects data from this exact machine and figures out how many units of each cartridge need to be delivered to the cinema. And it's not just based on what you and your friends poured yesterday. Algorithms predict demand and even factor in planned promotions for specific beverages. The system calculates which cartridges need refilling and automatically creates restocking orders. Those orders are sent straight to the distribution center, and from there, the cartridges are shipped directly to the fountain locations. Every Freestyle machine on the planet is quietly sensing. Think about how smart this is. With Freestyle, Coca-Cola can optimize their entire fountain supply chain, streamline inventory management, make restocks more efficient, and even improve their production schedules. It is probably safe to assume that this alone saves the company millions and millions of dollars along the way. If you think Coca-Cola tracking your data in real life is something, you won't be surprised to learn that your data is exposed everywhere online, and there's nowhere to hide. Every click, search, and form you fill out reveals tiny pieces of who you are. That you had to look up how to spell bourgeois 6 or 7 times for your online comment war, that you don't understand the 6-7 meme. Or that you enjoy mixing Sprite and Fanta, you disgusting animal. With data breaches rising every year, your personal information is at risk. Shady data brokers sell it, scammers use it, and some even steal your identity. Not that anybody would want your particular identity, but, theoretically, if they did, they could take out fraudulent loans, open accounts in your name, and cause serious legal and financial headaches. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Think about the last time you used one of those Coca-Cola Freestyle machines. You probably thought it was just a fancy soda fountain, right? Well, there's a lot more going on behind that touchscreen than you'd imagine. Those data streams don't just report what you've picked. Marketers at Coca's headquarters can push new campaigns and promotions directly to the machine in front of you. Getting to this point wasn't easy. In the beginning, whenever Coke wanted to push a new campaign or even just change the content on the screen, it required a full software update. And during that update, the machine couldn't pour a single drink. That's a huge problem, especially since many of these machines are in high-traffic spots like fast food restaurants. So, in the mid-2010s, Coca-Cola integrated a modern device management platform called AirWatch. Now, instead of a massive, disruptive software update, marketers can just push tiny data packages to the machines. They stay fully operational, simply downloading and displaying the new content in the background. Like a special Halloween-themed menu, for example. And what happens next is a clever bit of marketing called nudging. A new flavor might be the first thing you see on the screen, or a short, eye-catching video might play. You're still completely free to choose whatever you want, but those gentle nudges make you just a little more likely to experiment. And every time someone decides to try a bizarre new Halloween flavor, that choice gets recorded and sent directly back to Coca-Cola's product development team. But hold on. See that little black dot at the top of the screen? Is that a camera? Is this thing recording you? Well, it's complicated. Coca-Cola did plan to install cameras in one of their Freestyle models. They even included it in their spec sheets, describing it as a future capability for motion sensing and facial recognition. The idea was that the company could track your every reaction. A smile when you mix the perfect flavor combo, a frown when it doesn't taste quite right. They could literally observe which combinations make you happy or annoyed just by watching your face after you take a test sip. Every single reaction is data. But could they actually pull this off? In Europe, probably not. Strict laws like the GDPR would likely prevent this from happening. In the US, however, it's a different story. Businesses are increasingly experimenting with facial analysis technology in public spaces, so hypothetically, it might be feasible there, according to a Fortune report from early 2024. An AI company named Quantify referenced a facial recognition project tied to Freestyle on their website. The entry, which has since been removed, reportedly said that each vending machine comes with a camera and an image is captured for every customer. It claimed Coca-Cola's marketing team wanted to use these images to generate insights on consumer preferences. Basically, Coke could know you're a guy in your 20s grabbing a Sprite cherry. After Fortune started asking questions, that post vanished. A Coca-Cola spokesperson said that cameras in Freestyle fountains were only tested in a lab setting between 2018 and 2019. We reached out to Coca-Cola about this ourselves, but they didn't respond. Creepy camera hole aside, the technology is undeniably impressive. You have a single, globally deployed machine that expands flavor variety, pushes experimental marketing campaigns, enables hyper-detailed flavor testing, and even optimizes the entire supply chain. You've probably stood in front of one of these and never had a clue about the complex system working behind the screen. But all of this led us to one central question we just couldn't shake. Just how much money are they saving and making with this technology? To find out, we went down a deep rabbit hole of annual reports, analytics figures, and company filings. The problem was, there's no concrete public data. We found a few clues here and there, but nothing solid, especially because any gains from Freestyle are tangled up with dozens of other projects. And when we reached out to Coca-Cola for a comment, we got silence. So, we had to call in backup. Enter Yannick, our team's spreadsheet wizard. He dove into every piece of information we could find about Freestyle and started to make sense of it all. He broke his analysis down into 3 parts. First, the payback. To get a rough baseline, we looked at something similar: loyalty programs. These programs usually return a tiny percentage of your spending, maybe 0.5% to 3%. It sounds like a bad deal for the company, but it works. Because when people get a little something in return, they tend to spend more. And while they do, the company collects tons of data on what they buy, when they buy, and where they buy it. Now, you can't perfectly compare a loyalty program to Coke Freestyle, but they both follow the same core idea: encourage people to buy and learn as much as possible while they do. Studies show that these kinds of programs can improve a company's gross margins by 2 to 4%. Not just because people buy more, but because the company can make smarter, data-driven decisions. Using that logic, we can conservatively assume a 2% margin increase on revenue for Freestyle. It's a very rough estimate, but it gives us a sense of scale. According to one source, Freestyle machines dispense around 4 billion drinks per year. Assuming an average of $2 per drink, that 2% margin adds up to roughly $160 million in yearly gains. That's over $1 billion since Freestyle was first introduced. Second, the value of the data itself. Back in 2015, Coca-Cola teamed up with a company that uses AI to optimize vending machine sales. One of their clients was a US bottler with about 19,000 vending machines. By using software that combined sales data with machine learning, they could predict demand for every single beverage in every machine. The results were impressive: a 6% sales increase and a 15% reduction in restocking trips. It's reasonable to assume that the data from Freestyle fountains could yield similar, if not better, results for Coca-Cola's massive global operation. Third, new flavors. You'd think that with all this data, every new flavor launched from Freestyle would be a smash hit. But that's not always the case. Some turned out to be as popular as a deeply disappointing sequel. Take Coke Cherry Vanilla. It was one of the most beloved Freestyle combos, but when Coca-Cola produced it for the mass market, they ended up discontinuing it in 2020 due to declining demand. So, Freestyle can help spark promising new flavors, but it's not foolproof. In fact, out of 4 major flavors brought to market from Freestyle data, 2 didn't survive long term. This doesn't mean they were failures, just that they weren't permanent hits. It seems Coca-Cola might have overestimated how much the habits of Freestyle users represent the broader market. Again, our request for comment went unanswered. While Coca-Cola rarely publishes sales data for specific products, we did find a number for a newer, non-Freestyle product that shows the potential. Sprite Lemonade generated $50 million in sales in its first 21 weeks in North America alone. So the market for new flavor innovations is huge. It is hard to put an exact number on the profit from new flavors that started on Freestyle, but looking at all 3 parts of our analysis, the payback, the data value, and the new products, one thing seems pretty safe to assume. That $1 billion Coca-Cola reportedly invested to create these machines, they've almost certainly made it back, and then some. So next time you're mixing up a custom soda, remember there's a massive, intelligent system behind that screen, learning from every single choice you make. It's a fascinating look into the future of data and consumer products. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to subscribe for more videos like this.